This presentation is part of the Irvington Historical Society's Steeped in History series, covering commercial sites in Irvington. It was produced by the Irvington Historical Society as a part of the One State, One Story initiative, sponsored by Indiana Humanities. The Irving Theater is located at 5505 East Washington Street. In 1899, the Charles M. Cross home filled a large triangle lot bounded by Ritter Avenue, Washington Street, and Johnson Avenue. His family remained there until two commercial buildings were built: the Irvington State Bank and the Irving Theater. In 1905, the first storefront movie theaters, called Nickelodeons, opened and began a national craze. Soon after, the first attempt at showing movies in Irvington occurred, called Teddy Bear Theater, and most likely operated out of a storefront on Washington Street. Opposition to movie theaters was strong in many communities, including Irvington. Some thought movies were low-class, suggestive, and inappropriate for children. The theater was soon closed. The first successful Irvington movie theater arrived on July 18, 1913, when Charles M. Cross sold a second portion of his property at the intersection of East Washington Street and Johnson Avenue and turned his home to face Ritter Avenue. Ultimately, that house was torn down to create a parking lot for the theater, bank, and the Baptist church, and the Idle Hour Amusement Company, headed by H.L. Whitehead, took over the lot. The theater was constructed as a single-story building in a Spanish exterior style, with an Oriental interior motif. It opened for business on Wednesday, December 3, 1913. Admission was 10 cents for films such as Antony and Cleopatra and The Betrothal. The fears of many Irvingtonians were realized when Winnie Drollinger assumed management in the spring of 1914 and wanted to run movies on Sunday. Neighborhood furor, and you thought furor began with social media, caused the theater owner, Whitehead, to temporarily close the theater and change managers. At some point between 1914 and 1920, Frank Rembush of Shelbyville became owner of the Irving. In 1924, he sold the theater to Charles and Mary Walker. In 1926, the Walkers undertook a major renovation, including the addition of a second story to the front of the theater and an addition along Johnson Avenue, which housed retail and commercial units on the first floor and apartment units on the second floor. The lobbies of the original theater were converted into two small storefront shops that faced East Washington Street. The community eventually embraced Sunday movies, and the Irving flourished under the Walker family. They continued to own the theater into the 1960s, but competition from suburban theater complexes took their toll on neighborhood movie theaters. In 1969, the theater was sold to Chicago investors who planned to convert the Irving into an adult movie house and change the name to the Festival. In 1979, Irvingtonians and city officials closed the Festival Theater. In 1982, the theater reopened for 2 months as the Xenon One. In 1986, Harry Burkhart III and a group of local investors refurbished the old movie house and reopened it as a neighborhood theater. Unable to compete with the new multiplex second-run theaters, the Irving closed in 1995. In January 1997, the theater was put up for auction. The winning bidder gutted the building and sold the interior furnishings of the theater. In 2006, the theater was sold to Joe Wisner and Mike McAtee, who owned and operated an internet cafe in the adjoining portion of the building. They started booking bands to perform live music. Today, the Irving continues as a multi-purpose entertainment venue for private and public events under current owner Dale Harkins. We hope that you enjoyed this glimpse into Irvington history and will consider supporting the Irvington Historical Society by becoming a member. Check out our website at irvingtonhistorical.info.